I killed my best tomato plant trying to save it. Not from neglect. I was out there every day, 2 weeks straight, and the plant kept getting worse. It went down 2 weeks before harvest, and when I finally dug it out, the smell from the soil stopped me cold. That smell told me I had been diagnosing everything wrong for 2 weeks. The real problem was 6 inches underground, and it had been there the whole time. The lower leaves went first, soft, uniform yellow, starting at the bottom and climbing up one leaf at a time. No spots, no defined edges, just a clean fade from green to yellow, and then the leaf drops on its own. It looked textbook. The kind of symptom you see described with a clear arrow pointing to one cause. I thought I knew what that was. Fungal problems move up a plant. Disease moves up a plant. The pattern was clear, the direction was clear, and the response felt obvious. I grabbed the copper fungicide and started spraying the lower canopy, working my way up, making sure I had coverage on every surface. It felt like the right move. It felt decisive. What I did not know is that nitrogen moves up a plant too. When a tomato is carrying a heavy fruit load and the roots cannot pull enough from the soil, it starts pulling from its own older leaves instead. The bottom ones go first because the plant has already made a decision about what matters most. The fruit clusters higher up the stem are the priority. The older leaves below them are the reserve. So the plant quietly pulls nitrogen out of those lower leaves and sends it upward, and from the outside that process looks identical to a fungal infection moving up the stem. One of them needs copper, the other needs feeding. Treat the wrong one and you find out fast. The way to tell them apart before you reach for anything is to look at the yellow leaf itself. Nitrogen deficiency fades evenly across the whole leaf, starting at the tip and moving inward, and the leaf stays soft until it drops. Fungal damage has edges, a defined border, a darker center, or a halo you can actually see. Clean uniform yellow with no marks anywhere on the surface points to nutrition, not infection. That one detail would have saved me 4 days of spraying the wrong thing. I treated the wrong one. For 4 days. Copper does not touch nitrogen metabolism. The spray did nothing except coat the leaves. The yellowing kept climbing. I raised the dose, and by the 3rd day it was already visible in the second fruit cluster, not just the lower canopy. I added fertilizer next, thinking that would slow things down. The decline picked up speed instead. I was doing more, and the plant was responding less, and I told myself I just had not found the right combination yet. Brown spots appeared next. Dry center, faint halo, papery feel when you touched them. Septoria. And the reason it showed up exactly where the yellowing had been heaviest was not random, and it was not bad luck. Septoria spores are common in many garden soils. They sit there doing nothing until moisture stays on leaf surfaces long enough to give them what they need. My lower canopy had been holding that moisture since the plants went in. Cool nights, branches that had grown into each other over the season. Morning dew that never fully dried before noon because the airflow through that lower zone was almost non-existent. I had been maintaining those conditions all season without realizing what I was building. The disease did not find a weak plant. It found a damp, still pocket that I had created myself. And it moved in exactly the way it was always going to move in once those conditions were in place. If your tomatoes are in the ground right now and the bottom leaves are starting to yellow, this is the window where you can still change the outcome. What I'm about to describe is exactly what I wish someone had told me in June. Both problems shared the same root. Not Septoria, not nitrogen. Something I had done to the soil weeks before either of them appeared. Here's what happens underground when soil stays saturated. In warm, compacted ground, fine root hairs start shutting down within a day or two. Those tiny hairs do most of the actual uptake work. When they stop, the plant just stops acting normal, even when the soil around them is full of everything it needs. I had no idea this was happening. From where I was standing, the base of the stem looked completely healthy. The bigger roots were intact. Nothing above ground gave it away. The first sign was not dramatic at all. The plant sagged in the afternoon heat and seemed to recover by morning. That looks like normal heat stress when a plant is loaded with fruit. And when a plant looks like it needs water, you water it. When it looks like it needs food, you feed it. That logic feels completely reasonable, and it is exactly why overwatered plants often get watered again. So every new sign of decline felt like proof that I was still missing something. More fertilizer, more spray, more attention to the leaves. The real answer was already in the soil, and I was looking at everything except the soil. By the time the afternoon wilting stopped recovering overnight, the root damage below ground was already extensive. The plant had been sending distress signals for days, and every response I gave it made the actual problem worse. Everything I had applied during those 2 weeks was going into ground that the roots could no longer process. The nutrients just sat there. The plant kept declining. When I finally dug the plant out, the smell reached me before I even looked at the roots. Sour and heavy, almost stagnant. That specific odor is what tells you oxygen is already gone from the root zone. The roots were brown and soft where they should have been white and firm. Several of the larger ones pulled away from the soil without any resistance at all. They had been in that condition for weeks while I stood above them adjusting spray schedules and fertilizer ratios. What I do now starts in the soil, not the leaves. Every time. Before I touch a spray bottle or open a bag of fertilizer, I push a finger or a stick 6 inches down near the base of the plant. If it comes back damp and heavy with any trace of that sour smell, nothing going onto the leaves is going to reach the actual problem. The root zone needs time, not more product. If it comes back dry and crumbly, the roots are functional and the leaves can finally tell me something real. If the soil is waterlogged, I stop watering and let it recover first. No fertilizer during that window either, because roots that cannot breathe do not absorb anything, no matter how much gets applied above them. I check that top layer every morning instead of following a fixed schedule, because how long recovery takes depends entirely on how saturated things got and what the weather is doing. Once the soil comes back, everything below 10 to 12 inches comes off. Not just the infected leaves, not just the suspicious ones. Everything in that lower zone, whether it shows symptoms or not. Most people take off the leaves that look bad and leave the rest. The ones that look fine but sit in that still, damp air at the bottom of the plant are doing just as much damage. That open base changes the entire environment. It is the difference between a canopy that dries by mid-morning and one that holds moisture into the evening. The plant looks bare after that prune. In my case, within about 10 days, new fungal spots stopped appearing on the upper canopy. The conditions that were producing them were gone. Only after those 2 steps do I read the upper leaves. Uniform yellowing without spots means nitrogen, and I mix fertilizer at half the labeled strength so the recovering roots are not overwhelmed. Spots still showing up on upper foliage after the prune get a copper application, because at that point I am treating a real fungal problem on a plant with functional roots and actual airflow. The same spray that did nothing 3 weeks earlier works fine now. The conditions that made it useless are no longer in place. The flavor that develops, the skin that holds under pressure, the way a fruit stays together long enough to make it off the vine without splitting, all of it is written during a window the plant will not reopen. Right now, in June, while the first fruit clusters are sizing up, is exactly that window. When the root zone was running at reduced capacity during that stretch, the damage was going into every fruit on that plant. Tomatoes that split at the shoulders, ones with pale color that never fully came through, ones with thin skin that bruised on the way to the kitchen. Those were not casualties of disease. They were the result of 2 weeks of interrupted uptake during the exact period when the plant needed to be running without interruption. Nothing applied afterward could reach back into that window. That is the part that stays with me. A plant can survive a misdiagnosis and still produce fruit. But the flavor, the skin, the quality of what you actually bring in at the end of the season, all of that is decided during a window that does not wait for the root zone to recover. 6 inches down, near the base, before anything else. Damp and heavy means stop and wait. Dry and crumbly means the leaves can actually tell you something. That one check, 30 seconds of work, often answers the question you have been trying to solve for days from the wrong end of the plant. If you have ever dug up a plant and found that sour smell, write what you thought was going on in the comments. I read every one of them, If this changed how you think about diagnosing from the leaves, leave a like and subscribe. The next video gets into what happens when two nutrient deficiencies overlap and why treating one makes the other worse. And if someone you garden with is still reading the leaves while the soil goes unread, send this their way. It might save them a harvest.